from Portugal. The weather here is okay. It's kind of more or less. Hope you're having a good time.
We are. Hello, Nick.
Hello from very sunny, very hot Farnborough in Hampshire in the UK. Hotter than somewhere else, I'd imagine.
Hotter than a hot thing.
Yeah.
And we say hello to Maria. Hello, Maria.
Hello, everyone. It's from Ontario, Canada, and it's been raining a lot. My goodness, we've had so much rain. The grass is so beautiful and green. But today it's beautiful, sunny, and balmy. It's going to be a hot day, so I'm okay with the cooler weather, as I said last week. So it's okay. We'll all survive. Get the air conditioning on, right? Right, Harper?
Oh yes.
Hello, Harper.
Hello from currently sunny southern Arizona. We're in the middle of our monsoon season, so now it's hot and humid. Yeah, we were 109 yesterday. It was supposed to be 98 Fahrenheit, but made it to 109, and I think we're at 40-something% humidity today. So it's hot and humid. So, which is why I'm not in a t-shirt, because my t-shirt would just soak up. It would make me sweat even more. So I'm in a tank top today.
Hello, and I'm Stephen. I'm in wonderful Wiltshire in the UK, pretty close to where Nick is actually, and it is hot here. We're in a British heat wave, which means it's over 30 degrees, and we just can't cope with it. I mean, I know Arizona, high temperatures, but in the UK, we just like it around about 21, 22 degrees, which it hopefully will be over the weekend. Right now, for the last 18 months, almost, we've been living through an era we didn't expect. It hit us from nowhere, and we're living with the COVID pandemic. Now, my thought is that I should hand over to Harper, who suggests the topic.
Okay.
Okay. Good idea.
So here's kind of my take: is we haven't had a worldwide pandemic since the early 20th century, 1917 and 1918. But the difference between now and then is back then they didn't shut everything down in order to stop everything. If you stopped everything, you didn't make money, you didn't make food, you didn't survive. So they had to keep going. So there was no stop of any spread. The part that mutated and came back around was by the time it stopped in the U.S. and parts of Europe, it came around, and then soldiers and military and everybody that was traveling, doing the worldwide travel, they brought it back when it was a mutation, and it happened again. So that was the big significance of the 20th century one. The one today is that we're getting vaccines for what's currently out there. But when it mutates, which I believe is what this Delta variant is now the question is the vaccine enough to cover that? So we won't know until they start testing that. But the real outcome, the reason I wanted to suggest this topic today was because for those, most of us were able to, and kind of forced to, stay at home, not go to work, not get out because everything's pretty much closed. So you're kind of isolated. And what kind of effects did that have on the people? Me being prior military here in the U.S., I'm still in touch with a lot of people that I've served with, and it really mentally it takes a real toll on them because part of PTSD or just coping with whatever you've gone through. You don't want to be around people anyway, but over the years we've learned that we have to force ourselves to get out and talk to people. We need face-to-face contact. And so when we're stuck at home, that mentally that is just it's rough on people. And you don't have to be it's not just rough on military. It's rough on a lot of people. The stay at home, the moms with the kids and everything, they enjoyed having those play dates. That was their social time with adults and everything. I'm seeing a lot of people are struggling, and I've seen the suicide rate go skyrocketing. in all kinds of nations over the throughout the world, and it's because all of a sudden that normal life that we had was interrupted. And then when things started opening up, people were like going, I don't know. It's hard to get back into that rut because you don't just go, oh, we're going to start doing this again. Well, your car has been parked for a while. It's time to learn how to drive it again. So, with my analogies, but it's really been a struggle. I mean, I know it's been a struggle on me because for years, I've had to force myself to get out of the house to deal with people. I mean, I don't like dealing with people, but I mean, I have to, and that's part of life. And then everything closed, and I'm like going, I'm stuck at home again. I mean, it wasn't healthy for me. And I mean, I'm still hearing, from people, it's like, man, you hear about so-and-so, he couldn't overcome, what we call the battle within. And, it's rough. So I thought maybe today we can talk about, kind of let people know that, we're all kind of going through, it was difficult on everybody, I think. I'm fully retired, so I mean, I'm kind of used to staying home anyway, but I like to get out and do things, and I wasn't able to do that. How about you guys? I mean, what kind of impact did this have on your guys' life, socially, financially, or I mean, nothing too personal, but
Yeah, I'll go, Harper. Yeah, I was I was making a nice living doing paid ads for clients, but they're all in the hospitality industry, which of course just shut overnight, and so that was a bit of an alarming experience, to be honest. And my mother-in-law, bless her, she was 95 when it started. She's 96 now, and so we had to shield because of her, because she was vulnerable. So yeah, it just meant shutting down. So a couple of big things was obviously one, I had to try and find something else to do that could generate income, and also, of course, my sitting at home all day, my waistline grew rather alarming. So yeah, and it's one of those things. It kind of it jolts you, but you feel so powerless. And one of the big things that I think, and I don't know whether Stephen agrees, certainly in the UK, is that we don't have the most trustworthy government that we could have. I'm not saying it didn't matter which party was in, to be honest, but I think because there's been such disharmony in the UK with Brexit and some really tribal politics, that actually you tend to disbelieve anything that our political leaders say. So when they're saying, oh, it's a huge pandemic, I quite understand why lots of people, and lots of my friends, were saying, well, is it so bad? And a lot of them were flashing mortality figures at me, and then you hear the other day that, oh, there's been no flu for the last year. Well, I think there has been. We used to lose anywhere between 3 and 20 odd thousand people a year from flu. So I think a lot of the information, or I feel a lot of the information that we've been given, has been heavily weighed in where the government actually is trying to push us to. And no one in the right, yes, I'm double jabbed. Didn't want to be double jabbed particularly, but I understand that no matter what they say, there is always going to be a vaccine passport if I ever want to go on holiday anywhere outside the UK, if I want to go to nightclubs. And this is the thing, they say, oh no, we won't do that. And so we're not going to mandate you to have the vaccination, but your life will be rubbish if you don't. And so there's that sort of thing that, if you're just upfront with us, and if they actually understood it, and this is something, they didn't really understand it, and no governments do. But there's a little bit of me, and I totally understand why some of my nieces and nephews in their 20s and 30s are resisting, don't want to have the vaccination. It's still a vaccination which hasn't been through the very long processes they're normally subjected to before they're passed. And if I was a younger man and I wanted children, I could understand that. I could understand their hesitance. And again, the sad fact is, the vast majority of people that it affects are the elderly and ones with underlying health conditions. So, it's a tough one, and it's and I sometimes feel that it's very difficult for anyone to actually speak what they feel, for fear of being shut down by one side or the other. It's I'm not blaming anyone, but it's just I just wish we had more clarity from our government, I think.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, I definitely understand the waistline.
Yeah. Well, at least I'm working on that now.
I've gained what you guys call 2 stones last year. Not happy with it.
But listen, Stephen hasn't. Stephen's kept his lovely profile and his figure. He kept walking and everything. I think
he works and walks so much. Oh man, he's inspiring me to get back out and walk.
Yeah.
It's the walking that does it. I mean, the thing in the UK is this Monday just gone, was Freedom Day.
Yeah.
And it was a celebration of the fact that if you don't wear a mask, if you don't social distance, if you don't do anything you shouldn't do, the fines have gone. Theoretically, in the UK, if 10 people met together, then there would be a fine to be paid to the government. And all that has stopped now. So everything that we're doing now is totally voluntary. Yeah. And if you want to wear a mask, then you can continue to wear a mask, but you don't have to. There's no law which says you must wear a mask. Our supermarkets have said if you're going to shop in our store, you'll wear a mask.
That's respectable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our hospitals have said, and our doctors have said, if you're coming to our surgery, then you've got to wear a mask. Okay. And common sense says that you should wear a mask. So we've got used to it. So I think mask wearing among the majority of the population will continue when indoors, despite the fact that it's voluntary. But I think the thing that has happened, and it's I've got to be honest here. I apart from going out for walks, I actually enjoyed being at home. Which is totally weird. But it's basically I'm now appreciating being able to get out more. But we've lived through it, and I think that's the thing. We have coped in our own way with everything that's gone on around us. We've taken our own decisions. We've kept our own counsel. We've not told other people what to do. We've just done our own thing and kept safe. And all we can do is to continue doing that, to continue being safe and wearing masks indoors and taking advice that's given to us. Because I know Nick was calling our politicians out a moment ago, but our medics, the National Health Service, and the medical advice we've been given has been good. It's frightened the life out of us, but it has got us through this particular scenario where we've got to a stage now where the number of infections is growing, which is unfortunate. The number of people in hospital is growing slightly, but the number of people dying from COVID is very, very low compared to the thousands that were dying before. So I'm of the mind at the moment things are under control, and we just look after ourselves. There are sort of problems ahead in the UK. Our government is now saying, because Nick mentioned the 20 to 39-year-olds, and that's where the infections are rising, that the government has decided that if you want to go to a nightclub from the end of September, you have to have a COVID passport, which is an app on your phone which says that you've been double jabbed. Okay, but our opposition have got the right thing. They're saying what you should have before you actually go to a nightclub or a large event is you should be tested. Yeah. And if you test negative, then you can go into the event. If you test positive, then you've got to go home and isolate. And that's black and white. And that's something that people can understand whether you're jabbed or not. Because the problem is it's a social one. It's I've been double jabbed, you haven't. I'm not talking to you. And that's the split that's happening. and you can see it. And in France, it's exactly the same in France, I think. You cannot now go to major venues, and they're talking about restaurants and bars without having a COVID passport, which is going to make life difficult for a lot of people. It's socially, it breaks down the social arena.
But Stephen, the thing that really gets me about the nightclubs is that, but until September, you can go. Well, I know we probably won't, but we could go to nightclubs and it was without masks and without anything. But that's the thing. But the new rules don't happen until September. The most sensible thing would be to shut nightclubs then until you've got the new rules in place.
And by that time, everybody's caught what they're going to catch anyway.
Exactly. It's like, and that's my frustration. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, they're waiting to September so that in the intervening period, you've got a choice. You either have the jab, both jabs, or you run the risk. And if you run the risk, you get COVID. And if you get COVID, you might as well have had the jab. So that by the time we get to September, and this is what we're talking about 18 months ago, you would have herd immunity. And our government set off in early 2020 by saying everybody should catch it. Okay. And if everybody catches it, then we'll be immune to it. But
everybody goes immune.
That the number of people dying, the number of people having long COVID, it's not a risk that anybody in their right mind would actually take. So that was scrapped. But they're trying it again. They're trying again now.
Yeah, because one of the things that I was finding that here in the States was that it affects people so much differently. I mean, so it's not like, oh yeah, well, you get this, your muscles ache, and then after about 3 days that you're over it. But no, it depends. I mean, some people have no effect, and other people, like, oh my God, they're dying. Yeah. And it's not because they're, oh my God, they're over dramatic. No, they are actually almost dying. So I mean, it varies so much on person to person that it's hard to go, okay, here's the symptoms you're going to have. So, the first jab here in the States, they have you sit down for 20 minutes to see what kind of reactions that your body's going to have to it. And then the second jab, they're like, poof, there you go. See ya. It's like, oh, I don't have to stick around. It's like, no, if you're going to have a reaction, it's going to be the first one, not the second one. So.
It's very interesting, all this, because in Canada, for both first and second jab, you have to sit there for 15 minutes. Yeah. So I think it depends on which country it is. And quite frankly, I don't think the governments really know what way to go, because this is something we haven't gone through before, right? I mean, okay, you can look at the past history, like you were saying there, Harper, but people really don't know. It's just like they're putting their hand in a bag and say, okay, what number am I going to call this time? What am I going to say? Because they keep changing their stories. And the medical profession, is advising them not to open things up so very quickly. But myself, what happened last year, I remember which event I had gone to, because I do a lot of business networking. Can you hear me, everyone? Or maybe
no sound.
you sounded good.
You have an echo, Marco. so I can hear you twice. I remember the event that I went to, the very last one, and they were talking about the coronavirus and saying, okay, we shouldn't be shaking hands. So we were joking. We just went with our elbows to say hello, right? Because we hug each other and all of that because we just know each other for so long. And myself, when it happened, this was the opportunity I took to really start producing my shows on BeLive TV and YouTube, and really getting to know everything full scope every single day. And I did that so I wouldn't become depressed. And I felt I was helping my own members with the real estate industry. The landlords were going through a very hard time with people not paying rent. There's a tribunal that they go to. It's called Landlord and Tenant Board, where they can evict people. Well, that was shut down for many months. So you have these poor landlords that don't know which way to go. They're not collecting rent. They can't pay their property, So I produce videos with property managers coming on board. And then I even suggested things they could do to protect themselves, like go to the bank and just say to them, you cannot meet the requirements of your mortgage, and you're going to ask them to defer your mortgages. So thank God in Canada, they were more than willing to do that for up to 6 months. So, and I took advantage of that too. And the other thing I told them, if you're short on cash, you refinance your property, which is a technique that we use as real estate investors to pull out equity. So when you're pulling out equity, you can live off of it. If you've lost your job and you've got people that aren't paying, where are you going to get the money from? So a lot of people did that too. And also the government was sending money to them. It was called CERB, and they're getting up to $2,000 a month. So if you had a business, or, I mean, that won't cover off on people's expenses, but it probably helped a lot of people, right?
Mhm.
So I took full advantage of that. And yes, I did gain weight just like the rest of you, even though I was cycling every day, right? But that didn't matter. And I was really very intensely involved with that. And then I even started to learn a little bit more about working with my WordPress site, because I had no idea what to do with that. I learned to adapt the other apps, getting more and more into streaming, live streaming, and looking at my programming, how I'm going to do it, what I'm going to do different. So I took advantage of it. So just like Stephen, I embraced it. Because instead of letting it overtake me and making me angry or sad or whatever, I just fought against it and said, okay, let me do something that I can help other people with, and also share information, because I've been in this business for 21 years and I've got, I think, a little bit of education that I can offer other people. And at that time, I had a mentor that I was working with, and then I started my mastermind, and then I started producing my landlord camp. So from that, grew out a lot of things, right? So I took advantage of the time, and I didn't have the financial pressure because I took care of that by refinancing. So I was able to enjoy it. And now we can go out. It hasn't opened up completely, but we're able to go out, and I go to the beach, and when I go to the park and make fires almost 3-4 times a week. So I get out more now than I did before, because we can, so I'm enjoying this time. But you know what? I still wear my mask, I still wear my gloves, and I still wear my glasses. I'm not going to take a chance. And I really don't feel very comfortable with getting the jab. I don't. I'm a senior and I don't feel comfortable. So I made that decision. And so if they tell me I can't go flying, I don't want to fly anyways. If they tell me I can't go to nightclubs, I don't need to go to nightclubs. I can live my life around all of that. But I am a senior, and I've lived through having fun at nightclubs and things like that, Harper. So, so I'm okay where I am right now.
Yeah.
Thanks.
How about Belgium?
I am a brave girl. I have my job now. I was scared to death for it because of 2 reasons. It was AstraZeneca. And in the newspapers and on the news, they said that there were people dead due to AstraZeneca. And I have an allergy, I think, about zinc. And so I was afraid that I would have lost over, not for dying, of course, but that it would not be very good for me, and that I would be sick during a couple of days, because 2 of my colleagues were sick, and it were not plan trackers, so as we name it in Flanders. They are good people who are not out of vacation because they are sick. So that was seriously. But I have responsibility about the projects at school. And with the projects, we pay earnings from people. And I must write those dossiers. So I was scared, and I didn't go to the vaccination center. But I know there was a second chance. And now that it is holiday at school, I have taken my second chance, and I had 2 times luck. I must have not AstraZeneca anymore. One jab was enough. I am vaccinated with Johnson, so I was very glad. And after that, I was also glad that I have taken the decision to don't go during the school, because the next day it was precisely if I was a drunken sailor. That was not so good when you have your mind. You need your mind to make those dossiers in a correct way. But for the rest, my arm did a little pain, but that was okay. I'm very glad that I am vaccinated now. I am also glad that it is one time, one shot was enough. And for the rest, I saw here in Belgium that in the beginning, people were very, very solidar with each other. About 8 o'clock at the evening, everybody was clapping on the street to empower the people who live in the care and who do all those things for us. But now people wanted their freedom. They are social beings, social creators, and there are very much people who doesn't care at all for other people, and even a person, a very good doctor, is threatened to death. Here, there was a military who wanted to make that because of he said that people must stay at home and must be responsible and not doing of COVID doesn't exist. So that was a mixed thing. But for myself, I say never was the good crisis. For me, it's a lucky thing. Not COVID and not the misery and the pain and the deaths and all the bad things. But I had a problem first in March 2020. And that was that my projects at school were threatened. What have I had to do? Our students must go on the streets to interview people in the Abbey Street in English, in Hoboken near Antwerp. But when your school is closed and when you must be inside, it isn't possible. And so I was in social media. I had Twitter and I had a Facebook profile, but I had never done something with video before. And one of the little courses at Summerflex was about live streaming. I looked at it and I thought live streaming, that could be the solution because people can interview them, each other from each other's location. So I went to YouTube, and there on YouTube I saw someone everybody knows here. It was Stephen Healy with his tutorials. And what have I done then? I have, like always, I have mentioned that, and I have commented some things, and I have also in the comments said what I was searching for, a solution for that problem. And Stephen has a brilliant idea, but it scared me to death. He has invited me for an interview, but it was 40 years that I haven't spoken English. I've forgotten all the things, and so I was really scared because I must then answer on TV. Also, a thing that I didn't know is live, never been live before. And I must answer his questions in English, and people must understand that too. But we have fixed it. It was a brilliant experience. And after that, I fell in love with live streaming. And for me, it gives me perspective. It gives me a future that I can afford. And now my great wish is to become a YouTuber, a live streamer on different channels. and to make a weekly show, a live show, about art and antiques. It will be a show for starters, not for experts, because when you make it for experts, the audience is beperkt, is little, and you can afford. I can afford to make 10 shows for every discipline one. I know something about paintings, I know something about bronze statues, but I don't know the whole gamma of antiques and art, of course. And experts are very costly. So I will do the starters, and I can open the world of antiques and arts for them. And I have even bought something to interest little kids for that. And I will show you it. It's this one.
Oh,
This
so
and now
cute.
I have to learn something more. Ah, so
It looks like one of my high school teachers.
I love it. Yeah.
English teacher.
So
And,
love it.
can I must learn that. So you can talk with him.
Yeah.
And now I have also to try to speak without my mouth. But I
Ventriloquism.
think that I must learn also. Because that will be a funny thing. And for kids, when you take the puppet before you, as long as you can't be speaking with your mouth shut, then it will go, I think. These I have great plans for future. For me, it's a brilliant thing, and yeah, it's so amusing that I met Steven and that I can now go live, and also that I'm part of the Restream team to make some things in English and to explain myself in English because that was really a great need. I couldn't say a word. I must learn and translate everything, and now I can say something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's
Wow. Wow,
Yeah,
Chris.
yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
You. Brava. Brava. Wonderful. Oh, good
Yeah.
for you. Mhm.
Marco's introduction. Marco.
Hello, I got the vaccine, but I'm okay. I don't feel nasty.
Somebody's got some new toys.
Yeah.
You can let
I'm glad.
the talk.
I'm glad I have my hearing aids in for that because I would not be able to hear that.
You need that's Chris. That's what you need now for your puppet. That's what
There you go.
so cute. I love it.
Good idea.
I'm okay. And
So I will
Sounds
get
just
the
like
second
you.
shot Friday, okay? And I have something to say. As usual, Portuguese people are very generous because we have to wait after we get the shot 30 minutes,
30.
Oh,
okay? And the good thing is you have to wait 10 minutes seated in a chair,
Mhm.
and then you have to leave and go to another one and wait more 20 minutes. I think this is a kind of a scientific project from Portugal because we know things, you know? We know things. So,
Yeah, you do.
because if you wait the whole 30 minutes in just one chair, I think the vaccine won't work. Okay, so that's why we came up with this solution. Okay, so let's think about this whole situation. I think we don't know, and I think this. Some people don't understand this, but for me, this is a sign that humankind won't last forever, and that's the thing. And we are seeing too much signs about it. Just don't see those who don't want to see.
Mhm.
Okay, I was talking the other day with some friends, and I reminded when I was young. I never needed anyone.
Where's Peter?
And yeah, Brad Peter. And I remember that when I had this summer break in the school, summer vacations, I have a river, even though I live close to the beach as well, about, I don't know, maybe 10 miles. I live close to a beach, a river, who has a river beach as well. And it's kind of, I don't know, maybe 2 miles from my home. And once I finished school in June, I went to there till the end of summer. Okay, almost every afternoon I went to there because it was hot all the time, and I'm thinking that for a while, some years, it's impossible to do this and for me this means something. And for those people, oh, there's no climate changes. Yes, it is, and it's big.
Mhm.
And it's big. Okay, and also this could be this makes me think about something as well, because I don't know if I saw some years ago as well, because I don't have much to do, so I read things, I listen to things, I see things. And one of the things that some scientists told when the ices start melting is that inside that ices may have that they could be there some viruses and this other small living there, that once they are unmelted, this could be a problem. Okay,
Interesting.
and we need to have in mind that this COVID thing, even though people, oh yes, there are people dying from flu and people dying in car crashes, and will we stop? No, but the problem is, as far as I remember, I never saw hospitals with with so many people in the intensive cares
Mhm. Mhm.
as I saw these last 2 years.
Mhm.
And the problem
Mhm.
the,
Yeah.
the problem is this. The problem is this, because yes, of course, people will die in one way or another. Yes,
Mhm.
but I never saw hospitals with
Mhm.
no vacancy on IC
Mhm. Yeah.
because car crashes or flu, where
Hmm.
we saw it due to COVID. Okay, and I think it's not reasonable, even though human beings, we are not reasonables, we are
Mhm.
emotionals. It doesn't make sense for me just to say, okay, we have to die, and okay, some
Mhm.
people will die. I don't know about you, but I lost my father, not because of COVID. It was that disease, of the bucket ice challenge. I don't know if you I LDS, could it be?
Oh
Yes.
yes, yes,
It's
yes, yes. Okay. Yeah.
ALS.
He was 65,
Mhm.
and even though for some people could be just a number, it was my
Mhm.
father, and it
Of
hurt me a
course.
lot.
Of
Yep.
course.
Okay, so for me, that explanation, oh, they are old, they will die somehow, and
Mhm.
for me, it's kind of hard to understand this. Okay,
Mhm.
because it could be a number for me, but it's a beloved human being to someone.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Oh yes.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
I don't take this so light. Okay, and I have in mind as well this situation, and maybe the life as we had before, we we will be able to have it. And for me, it's a problem, even though I'm not a social Latin. And we here in Portugal, we have a problem. I don't know if you know it, but here in Portugal, we have a problem. Everything that happens, we compare to Sweden. Everything,
Oh yeah.
everything. But one thing, it's the Sweden people. We compare about the Sweden economy, the Swedish politics and everything, but we forget that the main problem with the Swedish is that they are Swedish. They are not Portuguese.
That's right.
And
They're
they
not
behave
laughing.
like Swedish, not like Portuguese. And everything that's good or bad there, it's because of their culture. And for
Yes.
instance,
Yes.
one of the things even though I never been in Sweden, one of the things I know it's typical in Swedish, in Sweden, Denmark, Norway. They are not close people as Latin people. For instance, Maria knows Latin people well. I think Chris also has some Latin thing there. And one thing Latin people likes to do is to touch. It's impossible to talk with a Latin people and you won't be touched. If you are if you're a sociopath, don't talk to a Latin people.
That's right.
Latin, because at some point they will touch you.
Yeah. Oh yes.
And it's really tough for us if, for instance, if we don't forbid, like we did, this social, this physical contact, I think by those days we on this place it will be just dogs and cats.
Yeah.
And some bulls. Okay, because we like to touch and if people gives us this piece of freedom, we will get this. So it's hard, and for Swedish people it's easy. They okay, you are here talking to me, and then okay, bye bye, I don't need to touch you, it's not my culture, I will go, bye bye, see you later. And that's the point. Okay, it's not casual that Italy, Spain, and here in Portugal, we are a small country, so that's why we didn't have that amount of things, because we are only 10 millions. It's kind of a neighborhood in a big country. Okay, and the numbers didn't represent too much because we are small. Everything that happens, it's due to our scale. Okay, and for instance, Spain and Italy, the things went because it's cultural. We have sun, we have this togetherness that we need to touch and everything. It's tough for it was really tough for us. Okay, and as I said before, I'm not that kind of social beast. Okay, I'm good at home, but I had too much home, because I was used to have some football games during the week, even also during the weekend, some going outs and everything, and it was tough. Right now, I'm going to the gym. I do some workout because, for instance, when this situation started, I was let me just write this down.
I thought you might have got immunity, Marco, from all the codfish you eat.
It's the tuna fish. It's the tuna fish.
It's tuna fish that identifies as cod.
So let me just to finish. Before, I think it was kind of a year before 1 year and a half before the COVID hit. I started going to a nutritionist and changing my diet and my habits and everything. And I was 205 pounds. Okay. I'm 6'2", so it's not bad. Okay, even though I could lose. Okay, but I was in the good track. So the COVID came, and now I'm 31 and a half.
Yeah.
Big bear.
We'll relate to that.
So this is my goal is to be at somewhere between the 200 pounds. I think, so that's my 2 cents to the conversation, and 200 pounds. I made a very rich participation.
Yeah, very rich. Well done. Well done.
Yeah, so I think as we're Arizona, we're pretty much back to normal for the most part. there's very few places now that they're even required to have a mask. A lot of places say if you're not vaccinated, we highly recommend you wear a mask, but it's all voluntary. But and everything's pretty much kind of gotten back to the way it was. I mean, it really is, outside of the lack of people who want to work. We have, I don't know how you guys are, but we have a shortage of people who want to get back to work. A lot of people, they're on unemployment.
Sorry, I don't understand that word you're saying.
I had to look it up. Work, it means employment.
What?
To do
What is
physical
that?
labor. I don't know. I had to look it up. I should have looked it up in Dutch because I don't speak English on that word. But yeah, there's actually a lack of. It's so hard on restaurants and all these kind of stores and stuff are. They don't have the employees. Everybody here in Tucson is hiring. I mean, everybody. But nobody wants to work, and it's not because I'm afraid of COVID. It's they've been getting too much money to stay home, and they're like going, well, I'm just going to stay on unemployment. So yeah, and they're like, well, I'm comfortable with this, and it's like, well, the rest of the world would like to have you back at your work so you can sell me something. One of the biggest things, we don't have Jim in the show anymore, but the automotive industry here in the U.S., and I'm not sure if it's the same way with you guys, but it's stopped. There's all of the 2021 vehicles are stuck at the factory because when COVID first started going out, everybody stopped ordering stuff. Well, the chips that are used to program the computers in the cars, they stopped the order. Well, it's the same chip that cell phones and computers. So when everybody stayed home, everybody had to get an updated phone or an updated computer to do all of their work from home stuff. So they all went to them. Well, now all of a sudden they're like, oh, now we need to put in that order for those chips, and they're not around. Shelley works at a very large dealership here in Tucson, and it's like a GMC, which is like a fancy Chevy trucks, GMC, Buick, all those kind of things. Within the 7 dealerships that this corporation has, they have 300 cars total, 300 2021 cars. That's all they have for 7 dealerships.
Wow.
And they can't get any more because the factories, the computers aren't programmed. They can't do it. They can't run because everything's so computer generated. They're actually calling around to people who have bought 20, maybe some of the early 2021s, the 2020s, maybe even 2019, if they've got low mileage, going, hey, we'd like to buy your car back. and they're paying. There was one person that they paid the truck was purchased for, I think, $60,000 US. They bought it back for $125,000.
Oh my goodness! Now this person has to go buy something else, right?
It was 2 years old. It was 2 years old. It was a 2019 truck, and it was like 30-something thousand miles or something. And they bought it for $125,000. I'd be like going, here's the keys, here's the spare. Can I wash it for you? I mean,
get you some more. Oh my goodness! Who would have thought? I did hear about that, Harper. I did hear about that actually.
Yeah, there's no end in sight right now. I mean, because everything went into people. I mean, everybody had to buy a computer. As we know, everybody had to go do live streaming, or not live streaming, but Zoom meetings and all that kind of stuff from home. And so everybody upgraded their phones, and everybody's upgraded their computers, and that's where all the chips went. And so, I've tried to reach out to Jim to see it, but I haven't got a response back. But yeah, it's interesting to find out what's going to happen to all these 2021 cars. And come September here in the U.S., that's when we start our 2022 season. So are they holding off on building the 2022s until they can get rid of all the 21s? Or, I mean, I don't know if we're going to, once they get all these chips and they start sending out, they're going to have to clear out all these 2021 cars. I mean, there's going to be a huge sale, but it's like, at what cost to the dealers and at what cost to the factories and everything else? But
wow. Wow.
And I only know it because Shelley works at the at a dealership. But I mean, you normally drive by. Here in America, we like to have like in the cities. There's like all the car dealerships usually on one street. On both sides, you can go down, and every brand you can think of, and you go down, and the parking lots are just packed with all these brand new cars, right? And all it is now they're all just on the parking strip right next to the road, right next, the parking spots in their parking lot right up against the road. Everything behind them, the parking lot's empty. It's really kind of scary. It's like wow.
Yeah, we've got two scary things in the UK at least. Nick might be able to add to the list. We cannot.
Nick was one of the scary things.
Far from it. We have a shortage, like you do, Harper, in the catering industry. There aren't enough people to actually run hospitality. Simple as people aren't volunteering for it. And the other thing we have a major shortage of, thanks to Brexit, is truck drivers, because thousands of truck drivers from Europe came over to the UK, and they would bring loads out, they'd take loads back, and it's just stopped trade. And the biggest indication we've got of that, of the Brexit problem, is going to be in Northern Ireland. If I say Marks and Spencer, what does it bring to mind?
Yes, they've gone bankrupt, haven't they? Have they? They've shut down? Have they gone bankrupt?
Getting there.
Okay.
Marks and Spencer is one of the leading UK retailers. They've got their fingers burnt by opening stores elsewhere, but UK is going swimmingly, is a good English word. Everything's going well, but they have a situation at the moment. They have to get goods across to Northern Ireland. Now, it's quite complicated, and they can't just ship them there. They get all their documentation ready, and they've got an accuracy with 0 fails. All their documentation is spot on. It's in the right colour ink, it's got all the right words, and they send a shipment over to Ireland with the right paperwork, and it takes 2 days to actually check it.
Oh boy.
So the refrigerator van has got to be sat there for 2 days. The food goes off. So it cannot be sold. So it can't reach the shops. It just has to be thrown away. So it's a real problem. Now it's going to be highlighted at Christmas, because Marks and Spencer's have already cancelled Christmas in Northern Ireland because they cannot ship fresh goods into their stores for Christmas. So over to Nick. Have you got any problems? Has the UK got any problems, Nick?
just a few. Yeah, not only is it a lack of lorry drivers, but we also have this farcical situation whereby this test and trace app, if you come into contact with someone, or if this app says you come into contact with someone that's got COVID, you've got to self-isolate for 10 days. Doesn't matter whether you've been vaccinated or not. So they're doing this self-isolation. So I think I read somewhere this morning that we've got about 1.6 million of the workforce are currently self-isolating because of this app. And it's not as if the vast majority of people, I mean, I think there is a majority of people that do have the app, but it was never compulsory. So a lot of people would ignore it. But then going back to the government, though, Stephen, as you know, this was the farce was that our health minister contracted COVID. Talk about in on that job, brand new in the job, so he goes and gets himself a dose, so he knows what he's talking about in the future. Of course, it then pings our prime minister and the chancellor and everything, and so they should go into self-isolation. No dramas, but this is the thing. No, they suddenly, from nowhere, oh no, there's this new special thing that you can do for important jobs where you just get a daily test and you can stay in your job. Of course, there was a massive uproar. And despite the fact that some ministers went on TV on Sunday morning saying, "Oh well, no, this is thing. It's okay. It's all fine." Yeah, such was the uproar. Of course, the Prime Minister had to had to then self-isolate. So that probably for the good of the country anyway. So, so they've all self-isolated. And it was what was really funny today. I don't know if you saw it, Stephen. Was every Wednesday there's this Prime Minister's questions. So Boris was doing it from a room in Chequers, and the opposition leader, well, we call it opposition, the other party leader was asking the question. Lo and behold, as soon as that finished, his child gets COVID, so he's now got to self-isolate as well. So, so it's like this could be the way out of it for the UK. All the politicians self-isolate, just let the public get on with it and do what they know is instinctively right, and everything will be fine. You know, I'm all for light touch government, particularly with the ones we have at the moment. So. The light of the touch, but it's true, and I feel the Northern Ireland thing is just absolute madness. I mean, it's just such a dumb thing to allow to happen. These are the people that we trust to do the good job, and it's a bit like we talk about. I do have rather an alarming amount of friends who are these massive conspiracy theorists about the whole COVID situation. And as I had to remind one the other day, I said, I wouldn't trust this government to run a bath, let alone be complicit in a global conspiracy. I mean, Jesus, it's like, that is, and if you've ever worked with government, which I had the great fortune to, because it was an education, as a contractor and having to negotiate contracts with the MOD. I mean, we used to say that, you're the best well in the world. You are the unintelligent customer because you don't know what it is you're asking for us to do. Certainly understand our solution. So it was a constant re-education of the people. But every time there was a new contract, we'd have the same hoops to jump through. And because it's like, well, why don't you look back at what we did last time? There's a good reason why we don't do X, Y, and Z. But no, they'd say, oh, no, this is a much better idea. Like, oh my God, no.
Yeah. Yes,
so that's the thing. But that's government's way. Actually, I'll give very quickly. I'll give you one example. Was they used to provide our contract with our staff with cars on the basis that the MOD could negotiate much better deals because they're hiring loads of cars, so they'll get a much better deal than we could ever get. That was the initial stance. So then they suddenly turned around and said, "Oh, we want full transparency, so you're gonna have to get your own cars." I said, "Well, we will price that into the contract. You understand that?" Oh, yeah. We want to flush out the full cost. Well, actually turned out I could get cars cheaper than the MOD.
Sure. That makes sense. Sure, you can. Sure, you can. They have to use up your budgets, right? They have to use up their budgets no matter what. I mean, they waste it because they don't have to work for it. We're working. It's our tax dollars. I mean,
that's the thing, Maria. Yeah, because you give them a budget, and if they don't, if they spend less than their budget, they're going to get it cut next year.
Yes,
so
same thing with the US. Yeah, it's
same thing in Canada. Same thing in Canada. So you're talking about the cars. I'm going to talk what's happening in Canada about the houses. I mean, people are overpaying like $100,000, $500,000 for properties. Like it's crazy.
Same thing here.
Crazy. Yeah. It started in 2020. Like, I mean, when people weren't making money, like, I'm looking at this saying there's something very wrong with this whole system of what's going on. And of course, there's going to be a crash, Harper. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
There's going to be a huge crash coming. Don't know when, but the thing with the housing market, it's the same thing here. Is they're saying, oh well, there's a shortage on materials, but there isn't a shortage on materials. The shortage is people transporting the materials. You go to our hardware stores here are like Home Depot and Lowe's. You go there, they're stacked full of wood. They're stacked full of all the building materials. There's nobody to transport them. That's their thing. The shortage is at the work sites, and so they're not building as many. So the supply and demand has been totally reversed, and now everything's going to skyrocket. And so it's going. It's going to be another one of these 2008s all over again. Yeah. You're going to have people paying way too much for a house, and then it's going to crash, and they're going to be in the hole for another 10 years before they even break even.
Yes. And I mean, like the materials, right? The materials have tripled in price. And
it's ridiculous for a piece of plywood.
Yeah, I know. So in my
and there's no shortage. It's like what's the problem? So
Yeah, whatever it is, it is.
I'm just glad cars aren't made out of wood anymore. So
people keep paying overpriced properties for these properties, right? And there is going to be, there is no doubt that we're going to have the same thing happen like 2008. And then also I forgot the name of the bank. Oh, I'm sorry. It's so silly of me because I wrote about it, where they have stopped all credit. They've stopped all the lines of credit. And now they're putting a cap on how your credit cards also. So this is what happened in 2000. This is in the United States. One of the
it's starting.
Yeah, I don't know. Help me out with the name of the bank. I mean, I can go and look at the article.
I can't think of it. Yeah, I don't watch the news, and so I don't really know what's going on. I'm doing much better now that I don't watch any news.
Yeah, well, I get all my information on.
I kind of like not knowing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well what I do is I only read what I need to read for my business, right? So I find YouTube, there's a lot of people there talking about the news of what's happening. Like they just said this morning that Somalia has been bombed by the Americans. Does anyone know about this? Probably not, but this is what was on YouTube. Because nobody knows about this. They're not going to talk about it, but they've pulled the troops out of Afghanistan and now they're bombing Somalia. Who knows this? I haven't read it.
I think that was like a month ago or something like that. I heard something about it, and but from what I understand, from what I also am, because I too have conspiracy theorist friends, was that the media was quiet about it because of they're in bed, so to speak, with the current administration, so they didn't want to put that out there. So, but I mean, it's just I don't know. But I'm sure they did something in order to warrant it, because the group that's in right now are not the type to go, oh, you pissed me off, poof, boom. So it had to be warranted, but so
I don't think it's warranted.
Well, amazingly, we've been broadcasting for the last hour, so I'm going to pass over to Marco. So Marco,
our government, it's always very good. We have the Minister of the Art, which is there. The Minister of the Walking Around, Mr. Stephen Healy. The Car and Wild Animals Minister, Mr. Harper Peterson, which is also a small army minister. We have also Maria, which is the Monopoly Minister, because he's there in properties, and you don't have to pass through the prison place. And also we have the Rabbit Issues Minister, Mr. Nick Wood.
Eat more rabbit.
So if you don't want to lose our next government section, and yes, I'm the Codfish Issues Minister, of course. If you don't want to lose our next laws and decisions, stay tuned next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.